Hello and welcome to the Virtual Racing School track walk for the Hyper Simulator Bathurst 1000 this coming weekend for the V8 Supercar Online Premiere Series. This is a new idea we've come up with to try and give an insight to not so much the driving but more the track layout that we see week in, week out. So we're going to have a look at cambers in the road, braking markers, acceleration points, why the car reacts the way it does. Things like that, just to give people more of an idea on the actual track itself. I will go through some race facts for you here. So 1 PM is the race start, so Australian Eastern Standard Time, 161 laps. Minimum driver stint is 54 laps, so each driver in the car needs to do at least 54 laps to be classified. There is no pit window, there is no pit requirement, just do whatever you do to have to get home. Dynamic weather, late afternoon will be the time of day for the race as well, so this session that you'll see in a moment will all be filmed in late afternoon. The incident limit is still there of 15 incidents. 10 points will be docked for every 15 incidents, so just keep an eye on your incident count as well. Alright, let's dive into the track walk. So turn 1 of the track, I quite often refer to this corner as one of the most challenging on the circuit. Now, the reason being is there's such a big run up mountain straight after this corner. So getting this corner right can either make you a lot of time or lose you a lot of time. Now, on paper, it seems very simple. It's a simple left-hand, right, 90-degree corner, right-angle corner uphill. But in reality, this corner is a lot more challenging than it looks. So this corner, it's a lot better to brake earlier rather than later. So you brake at roughly the 100-meter board, and turn in quite early. You're turning in about where the big telegraph pole is on the right hand side is roughly your turn in point. Turn in quite early. Now the reason you can turn in very early here is the corner is actually quite cambered. So it's cambered through the entry and mid corner, which gives the car a lot of grip. So by getting the car into the corner nice and early, you can carry good mid corner speed up the hill. The exit of the corner, however, you do need to be careful because it flattens off on exit. So the car wants to crack into wheel spin there, so you probably need to delay your throttle input to a little bit later than what you think, and that's where people get caught out and have spins and run wide, etc. So it's a tough corner, definitely one that's deceiving. You can see from the spectator area just how banked it is from that low angle. So yeah, just keep an eye on the camber there, and that's why it's one of the most challenging on the circuit. There's a head up mountain straight up to turn 2. You're just pulling gears as late as you can, revving the car right out, makes all its power up high. So that's important up there to make sure you don't lose any time. Getting up to turn 2, you brake roughly 130, 125 meters away from the corner. Again, turn in very early, very early. The corner is cambered and uphill. The closer that you can get to the curbing on the inside, the better off you'll be. You don't actually want to touch the curbing there. If you touch the curbing, the car will get all out of shape, all unstable. Same principle if you run wide. So if you run wide, the car has no grip. It misses the camber in the road. You run very wide. You almost hit the wall in a lot of cases. It's a very common mistake to see in the real Bathurst 1000 is actually to see cars arrow it into the fence up here. So it's a very common one. You turn, so as I said, turn in very early, run very close to the curbing on the inside, and then pick the throttle up nice and early. Third gear on the exit here, run nice and wide out towards the concrete wall on exit. Just on a note on racing here, this is one of the #1 passing opportunities on the track. So keep an eye out for people throwing it down the inside here. Like I said before, it is kind of a one-line corner, so if you do end up high and wide here, you're not going to be able to stick on the outside in most cases. You're going to be struggling to keep it out of the wall. So just keep an eye on that. It is one of the #1 passing opportunities on the circuit. Okay, now head up towards the cutting. So the cutting, again, single line corner. You got to modulate the brake a lot on approach here. It's a braking zone in which you need to turn, so modulating the brake's important. Trail brake right into the apex. Turn in quite early. Again, uphill, cambered corner. Get it in as close to the wall on the inside as you possibly can. The closer you can get there, the better off you'll be. So you exit from here quite shallow. About mid-track is probably the furthest you want to go on exit. Just that way you can get the power down nice and smoothly, nice and equally across the rear tyres as well to allow you to get good traction. Out of there, head up over this crest. So you want to crest this Fujitsu Air corner quite straight. So you crest it nice and straight, barely any lock. Pull third gear as you crest it. So short shift, and also dropping the throttle percentage down simultaneously with the short shift. That way it doesn't flare up into wheel spin as you crest the hill. If that happens, the car gets very unstable, very loose, and you can very easily end up crashing through here. It seems a bit silly because it's barely even a corner. It seems a bit silly to actually have a crash through there, but it's very easy to have happen. So the short shift and lift over the crest definitely helps a lot. Up towards Fujitsu Air corner, there's a tree on the left-hand side of the road. That is roughly your turn-in point for the uphill right-hander. So turn in around about there. Again, turn in very early because the corner's uphill and has a lot of grip. So you can turn in, really use good mid-corner speed through here. Just be careful of the wall and the curb on the inside. If you turn in that little bit too early, you're going to be in a world of problems. And if you hit that inside wall, it just arrows you straight into the outside wall, and that'll be race over there and then. So just beware of that. Very tough to go too wide through here with anybody. So from now on, roughly till Forest Elbow, this is all single line. Don't even, in most cases, don't consider a passing move. Not unless there's a massive opening. This through here is just simply single line. You can't do anything about your rivals through here. So we come through, up out of there into Metal Grate or Reed Park. So start the car as you come into Reed Park. You'll see you want to keep the car to the left-hand side of the road. The car crests that hill and loses a heap of grip. Basically, the car falls over the elevation and doesn't load up right down till the bottom of the hill. At the bottom of the hill, there's the famous Metal Grate. That's where you aim for as a driver. So you drive it in hard, aim for Metal Grate, and at Metal Grate, you'll actually feel the car load up. And when it loads up is when you get all that grip and you can get through the next corner a lot more smoothly. So what happens at Reed Park is the car just loses grip as you go in there, and it's not until you get out near the wall, it's quite scary, not until you get out near that wall that it actually grips up and gets in there. So it's important to aim for Metal Grate, because if you don't aim that wide and you actually a few too many meters inside the wall, you'll notice that it makes the next left-hander too shallow on approach, and you won't be able to get through there as fast as you want, and you may even risk hitting the outside wall on the exit. So it is important to aim for Metal Grate, let the car float out there wide, and then let it load up as it gets out there. That way you can get through the corner nice and smooth, nice and fast, and also probably the safest way as well, to just keep out of that wall on the exit. So from there, we go to McPhillamy Park. McPhillamy Park is one of the #1 spots to watch when you go to the circuit in real life. A lot of people sit here. It's quite a committed corner. So on approach, there's a crest leading into the corner. Now, as we've been through before with this track walk so far, crests unsettle race cars. So like at Reed Park, you don't really want to do your turning across the crest. And the car won't have any grip as you crest either. So what you'll notice is you actually turn in roughly where the start of the curbing is on the right hand side. You'll actually be turning the car in from there, and at that point where you turn in, you actually can't even see the corner. So it's quite tough from that perspective. You're turning in so early. You're probably 200 meters away from the corner at that point. You're actually turning in. The reason you're doing that is if you wait till after the crest to turn in, you'll miss the apex and be off the road. So you actually need to turn in before the crest and then go over the crest relatively straight, but it sets you up nicely for the corner because you're already pointing at the corner by the time you crest that hill. And you'll feel the same thing at this corner as what you felt at Reed Park or Metal Grate, where once you crest the hill and the car actually loads up on the other side, you'll feel it really grip up through the entry in mid corner, and you'll be able to carry a lot of speed through there. And then the main thing after that is making sure you don't run wide. So don't pick the throttle up too early and run wide off the track. That curb on the outside is quite nasty, so you got to be careful as you mount that curb and come off it as well, not to stick it in the inside wall. We've seen a few times over the years in supercars and touring cars arrow it into the left-hand side there. The most famous being Alan Moffat in the HDT Commodore, putting it in there before the race. So just be careful of that curb on the right. It is a little bit nasty if you grab it the wrong way. Heading down now to Skyline. So 220 km/h approach speed into Skyline. Massive speed. Same as the entry into McPhillamy Park. So you want to get the car across to the left-hand side of the road. You want to make this as straight as possible down this hill. Very, very committed section of racetrack, given, once again, when you turn in here, you can't see over the other side of the crest. So you're aiming the car at a spot that you can't see. Blind corner. So, get across to the left, turn it in nice and early, arrow it over the crest. You do a little bit of your braking before you get there. You've got to brake ever so gently as you crest the hill. The car has no grip across that crest. It'll just want to float. It feels like it's floating. So it's very easy to get loose or lock tyres or anything like that. So you want to try and keep the steering nice and straight as you crest that hill, and be minimal brake force as well, just to get across there. But as soon as you get across that crest and go just near that wall on the right hand side, you want to be nice and about 50% brake pressure, nice and straight, directly down to the curb in the midsection of Skyline. I also do a down change in that straight as well. So across the curb, hit the curb with half the car. You again got to modulate the brake here. If you're too hard on the brakes here, the car will lock a tyre and you'll go into that clean away blue fence on the right hand side, which again is a very common mistake both in sim and real life. So as you are hitting that curb, modulating the brake, being smooth with your pedal inputs to make sure you give yourself the best chance of getting through there smoothly. And then when it lands off the curb, just a little bit more brake pressure again, just get that little bit of extra speed washed off it before you get to what's known as the Esses. So down here, you trail brake in to the coat tire wall on the right hand side. You want to try and follow the curbing right around there, nice and tight with the wall. Reason being is the Cooper's dipper, you want to try and straighten that out the best you can. So you come through the dipper as straight as you can because it's all about the exit. So getting off the dipper and getting the car nice and straight as early as you can to fire off the dipper down through the S's. You get a nice run down to Forest Elbow. The S's there, it's actually quite difficult to get the power down as well. So that's another reason you want to come off the dipper nice and straight, because the straighter you come off there, the easier it will be to get to 100% throttle, and that's what we want for overall lap time. Coming down through the S's, flat out, pull a few gears, brake quite early. Now obviously Chaz Mostert had quite a famous accident here where he was trying to straighten out this braking zone the best he could, and he just clipped the wall. You do want to get as close to that wall as you can get. However, it is big consequences as you get it wrong. I just ask Chaz Mostert on that one. Completely destroyed the car and also badly hurt. Fortunately, in sim racing, it's just a destroyed car for us. But get as close to that wall as you can get. Brake fairly lightly, about 25% brake pressure. Again, you're turning the car and cresting a hill through the entry into Forest Elbow as a braking zone. So anytime you're turning the car or cresting hills or anything like that, you can't be using 70% brake pressure or something high like that. It'll just lock tyres. You'll have all types of instability issues. It'll just be a big drama for you. So you want to try and keep the brake pressure down nice and low. Keep the car nice and smooth, not doing anything that you don't expect it to. Once you get around the corner and crest the hill, you can get hard on the brakes. You can get 50-60% brake pressure down here. It's really tough to stop the car into Forest Elbow. It's very steep downhill. You also want to turn in very early. The road it feels off camber on approach, and it's also very steep. So it's very easy to overrun this corner, and you generally need to brake a lot earlier than you expect into Forest Elbow, because you do want to get it very tight into the Falcon wall on the inside and stay as close to that as you dare. That's where the grip is. So if we also look at the camber of the road here, it feels kind of off camber on approach, but once you get to the mid corner and exit, the camber kind of comes to you, so you get the grip. It's just getting it into that mid corner that's the tricky bit. So if you overshoot it, you'll never get the grip. If you underdo it, you're actually better off, because you'll get that good mid corner grip that you want. So the other thing about Falcon Elbow is just to keep it nice and tight to the inside. That also allows you to rotate the car very well in the mid corner due to the grip you've got, and also arrow off the corner as straight as you can. Get to full throttle as early as you can, because the straight after the Forest Elbow is the longest straight in Australia. So Conrad straight, massively long, so you need to get to full throttle as early as you can. On the straight, not much to it. Just flat out pull gears. Don't miss gears. If you hit the limiter, it will cost you, especially early in the straight. It'll cost you a tenth or two. So make sure you're accurate with your gear shifts. Flat out through the chase once you get to the bottom of the hill. Now the chase even is a little bit steeper than people realise. So it's a steep downhill run into the start of the braking zone. However, braking just before 150 board, say 160, 170 meters, you get on the brakes, you can be very aggressive with the brake pedal here. Hard on the brakes, 80-90% pressure at least. Make sure you're braking in a straight line, keeping equal load across the front tyres. The reason you can actually brake so hard into the chase is that it's not, well, one, it's nice and straight, but two, it's actually uphill. So the car compresses into the road nice and hard down in here in the chase. So so you can get away with using quite a lot of brake pressure, and you need to as well, because you are doing 290 odd kilometers an hour as you come in there. So you need to wash a lot of speed off, and you can do that quite nicely. As you turn in, you need to trail brake as you turn into the corner. So as soon as you turn in, you've got to come off the brake pressure back to roughly 15-20%. Now it's hard to tell yourself that, because the turn-in point, you're actually still going roughly 30 or 40 k's faster than what you can go around the corner. So to tell yourself to actually come off the brake and so that you can turn the car in is quite tough, because you're actually still, the corner's approaching fast, you can see it coming, but yeah, to get off the brake knowing that you're still going too quick's hard, but you have to do it, otherwise you'll lock tyres. And on this specific lap, you can see in the replay here, I've actually pinched your front left. So I've actually slightly done what I said not to do, but I still got it into the apex there. You can use quite a bit of curb here. If you half the car across the curb, that's fine. I actually find that to work quite well. I do that every lap for me, but some drivers also choose to stay off the curb. The chase left-hander here is also quite uphill, so it's got quite a bit of grip. You can turn in quite early. The exit is tough. It's an acceleration zone that's also a corner, and the V8 does not like that. There's a lot of sections of this track that are like that, so you just got to try and get through there as straight as you can. I use second gear through the chase, short shift to third on the exit. As I short shift, I also drop the throttle percentage to roughly 50 or 60%, and then back to full throttle as soon as I can. Use all the road on the exit. You can kind of use that exit curb like a berm as well, coming just before the Armoural Bridge past the hotel. And then down to the final corner, tough braking zone. It's a straight braking zone, but it's a tough one because you've just used a lot of brake force at the chase, but this braking zone isn't as simple. You actually need to be a little bit careful down here, because it's quite a steep downhill braking zone, And downhill, you can't get away with using as much brake pressure. Sure, you can still use a lot, but you just can't quite get away with using as much in the chase. The car, as I said, is compressing into the road as the camber of the road, or the elevation of the road, comes to you, so it pushes the tyres hard down. Down here, you don't have that effect. The road is still falling away from you in the braking zone, so you got to be a little bit careful of that. Same thing as you turn in. You want to clear the brake pedal and come up to 10-15% brake pressure as you're turning in to avoid locking a tyre and running wide. Very important not to touch the curbing on the inside here. You want to get as close to the curbing as you can, but you don't want to touch it. It is a massive curb and it will unsettle the car a lot, and you will have to delay your throttle onto the main straight if you hit it. So be very wary of that curb. On the exit here, you can use the curb on the outside. This is all about trying to get to the finish line as early as you can, or as fast as you can. If it's a qualifying lap, obviously you don't want to bugger this corner up and throw away a good lap. But in the race, obviously it's just another corner. But come through the exit here. The curb on the outside you can use. As soon as you drop a wheel in the grass, there is no traction. It's lighting up into wheel spin all over the shop, and you just watch the tents disappear. So just be careful of that. You do find yourself running out of road here quite a lot. It's very easy to do, so just be wary of that. And yeah, after that, cross the line, and 160 laps after that. So it's a long day at the office for the Bathurst 1000, but yeah, if you mostly just drive smooth, drive patiently. Remember, don't rush to the throttle. A last bit of advice from me over the top of the mountain is it's okay to coast. If you're coasting over the top, the car won't do anything unpredictable. Generally, people get into trouble here when they're using too much brake over crests, or if they're using too much throttle too early in the corners, and they get into dramas. So if you find yourself starting to overdrive in the race, or in your practice or pre-qualifying or whatever, just peg it back a little bit. The V8 tends to reward you with driving smoothly. If you drive smoothly, along with the driving nice and close to the walls everywhere, you'll be rewarded with a good lap time around here. So finally from me, thanks for watching the Virtual Racing School track walk. And I hope you guys enjoyed it. We should do a little bit more of this stuff for the end of the V8SCOPS season. Let us know what you think, and all the best for the Bathurst 1000 this weekend. Thanks, guys.